the funding. Like where is that money coming from? And it doesn't seem like anything's going on with that now because the money is always talks at the end of the day. Like there's no design coming in. Like where are they at with these next steps if you know anything?
I know nothing.
Yeah.
It's $380 million of public funding, but even that has some structure to it. It's tied to that site. Like if the A's all of a sudden wanted to change sites again, you realize the Tropicana site's not even their first, not even their first location in Las Vegas. That was a whole thing when it initially came out. But John Fisher, obviously part of the Gap family, and he has money. His family has money. They're tied into banks, and there might be a loan. But this is also a really bad time to take out a loan with interest rates being what they are. And cost overruns, I mean, it's spelled out as $1.5 billion. That's why people want to see these renderings. Can you actually do something Vegas caliber that, competes with the Sphere? It competes with all the other Vegas amenities and entertainment. Can you really do it for $1.5 billion? Because even when they built the football stadium down there, it turned out to be closer to two. So there are so many questions, and you're right, the money part of it, the public part is spelled out in a lot of ways that happened this past summer, but the private part has no details, just like there's no renderings, just like there's really no information. So I try and communicate the best I can, but most of my communication is in the form of, here are the questions that don't have any answers.
Yeah, and it's a super small chunk of real estate, I mean, I appreciate you, pointing out how we have tried to keep this story in the national sphere. We bring it up to other players, even kind of random players, which I'll get to. I have a question on that front for you, but there's been jokes from people like, they're just not going to have an outfield there. Like, it's a tight space. That's why everyone's dying to see what this all looks like, because the initial sketches weren't the real sketches. That's what we're referring to for fans.
That's
that are
another
not
thing,
completely
right?
in the loop here, right? So those initial sketches, and I don't know if this has been the case in the past, but those initial sketches were just kind of marketing material to show what things could look like, but they weren't real.
Even more than marketing material, they were debuted on May 25th, which was the same day, the very last day the A's could submit their request for public funding in the Nevada legislative session. So the request for money came as the same day that the renderings came out, right? 60 days later, I kid you not, from May 25th to July 25th. On July 25th, it was published in the Las Vegas Review-Journal saying that the A's were not even operating on those renderings anymore, that they were just kind of a placeholder. You could wad those up because the renderings will look nothing like what the ballpark actually does. By the way, those renderings highly criticized because the site is 35 acres. And if you look at those pictures, the ballpark takes up like half the site. That's not 9 acres. So again, a lot of this has been misleading in that sense of the renderings, and also to get that push through in the public financing. Of course, the politicians, and they loved what they saw in those renderings, and then all of a sudden those renderings don't mean anything. So when the real renderings come out, right, that everybody's expecting, and I know we'll get into that, everybody's curious about what is the accuracy level of these new real renderings.
What do you think? I'll go big picture on this one. What do you think is the percentage chance? And it could be incredibly low, obviously, at this point, as things have gotten approved, even though we are still waiting for a lot of clues to be helping us figure out what things will look like in Vegas. What do you think is the percentage chance that there's some massive upset? Funding's not there, something pops up, right? I know there's been that union battle from the teachers. It doesn't look like that's going to surface into anything. Percentage chance that the Oakland A's somehow pull off an upset and remain in Oakland.
So I could answer your question, I think, in two different ways, Scott. There's the first one of what's the percentage of Vegas not going through or getting massively delayed. I think they're right now, and as time goes on and they cannot produce renderings and they cannot produce details, I think that percentage is ticking up. Is it 20, 30%? Possibly, but that's one side of it. The other side of it is, what's the possibility that something gets upset in Vegas and that means they stay in Oakland? That to me is still such a minimal percentage, if nothing. And I say that only because until the team is owned and run by somebody completely different, I mean, it's been very clear this group wants to get this team out of Oakland. And I think the bridges have already been burned to the extent that I don't see how there's any turning back to Oakland at the current point, the way things currently stand. I'm not going to say it's impossible under some different way, but as things are right now, I don't see them ever coming back. So again, The Vegas side happening or not, that's one part of it. But coming back to Oakland is so far-fetched at this point under this group. I think that's near nothing.
How far? You said the bridge is burned. How far did that fire burn? Has it burned the entire Northern California, all the sites? Because before it was San Jose was talked about, and then there was like right refusals. Have they
Right.
burned all their goodwill in? If Fisher continues to be the owner, have they burned all their goodwill in Northern California?
I think that certainly the fan response and the public response is not great right now based on just how long this process has gone on. It's almost like, guys, if this were a done deal and it was all set and they just moved on and overnight it was done, the public would move on. But because there's so many things that make you say, wait, this isn't actually done. This may not happen. Why can't you just get on with it? I'm not here to speak for the city of Oakland, the mayor's office, Alameda County. I do think that they would still negotiate. They would still try and make things happen. Those other sites you talk about, they're probably all done with. It would really be down to Oakland at the current Coliseum site, which is literally ready to go. Challenge is the A's are finishing off their purchase of 50% of that Coliseum land. So they own half of it with the city of Oakland. That's going to be interesting. And then the other site is Howard Terminal. It's 55 acres. It's got basically all the approvals that it needs. The Port of Oakland wants to move forward on it. The city of Oakland wants to move forward on it. They have $600 million of infrastructure money all lined up from state and federal grants. So to answer your question, like the opportunities still exist in Oakland. They've just got to get somebody interested in actually pursuing it and not turning away from the negotiations that were so very close back in April.